This video is based on a true life story. I'm sure you will love to know what happened at the end. It all started when Claudia stood on the balcony of her small apartment, clutching a coffee mug that had long gone cold. Her eyes traced the skyline, lost in memories of Adrian. He had been her everything, her anchor, her dream, her future. But now, he was someone else's. It had been 3 weeks since the night she discovered the truth. Adrian had broken the news over dinner, his voice calm, almost indifferent. "I didn't plan for this to happen," he'd said, avoiding her eyes. "But I've fallen for someone else. I think you'll understand eventually." Understand? Claudia's voice had cracked, her hands trembling as she set down her glass of wine. "You think I'll understand you throwing away 5 years like it was nothing?" Adrian had looked at her then, his face a mask of guilt. "I'm sorry, Claudia. Truly. But this is what's best for both of us." Now, standing alone in the fading twilight, Claudia felt a hollowness she couldn't shake. The world felt cruel and untrustworthy, and the Claudia she once knew, hopeful, vibrant, full of dreams, was a ghost of the past. 2 months later, Claudia sat in a high-end cafe, stirring her latte absent-mindedly. Across from her sat Anthony. They'd met through mutual acquaintances, and their interactions had been sporadic until now. He was older, refined, and exuded an air of authority that both intrigued and intimidated her. "Claudia, I'm going to be direct," Anthony said, leaning forward. His piercing blue eyes seemed to see through her. "You deserve stability. A life where you don't have to struggle or feel uncertain. I can give you that." Claudia blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. "Are you proposing?" "Yes," Anthony replied without hesitation. "I've admired your resilience, your strength. I believe we could be good for each other." "But you barely know me," she said, her voice a mix of disbelief and confusion. "I know enough," he said firmly. "I see potential in you, and I think you see the same in me, even if it's not romantic yet." Later that night, as Claudia lay in bed, she replayed the conversation in her mind. Her heart ached for the love she'd lost, but Anthony's offer was a lifeline. Was this her chance to start over, even if it wasn't for love? The wedding day arrived with all the pomp and ceremony Anthony had meticulously planned. Claudia stood in front of the mirror, a vision in white. Her gown hugged her figure perfectly, and the tiara perched on her head sparkled under the light. Yet, as she stared at her reflection, she felt like a stranger in her own skin. Her younger sister Sarah entered the room, her eyes wide with admiration. "You look stunning, Claudia. Like a princess." Claudia managed a weak smile. "Thanks, Sarah." But Sarah wasn't fooled. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Are you sure about this? You don't have to go through with it if you're not ready." Claudia sighed, her shoulders slumping. "It's not about being ready. It's about survival." The walk down the aisle was surreal. Anthony waited at the altar, his face composed and unreadable. As she reached him, he took her hands, his grip firm but cold. "You're making the right choice," he whispered as the officiant began. Claudia's heart sank. Right for whom? The mansion was breathtaking, a sprawling estate with marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and art that looked like it belonged in a museum. But as Claudia explored her new home, the grandeur began to feel oppressive. Anthony gave her a tour, his tone businesslike. "This is your space," he said, gesturing to a lavish bedroom. "I've made sure you have everything you need." "Thank you," Claudia said, her voice hollow. That night, she wandered the halls, unable to sleep. The house felt alive, its silence heavy with secrets. She passed a locked door at the end of a corridor and paused, her curiosity piqued. "What's in there?" she asked Anthony the next morning. "Just storage," he said dismissively. "Nothing you need to concern yourself with." But his clipped tone only fueled her suspicion. Claudia's unease grew with each passing day. Anthony's controlling tendencies became more evident, from monitoring her phone calls to dictating her schedule. She felt like a prisoner, her gilded cage becoming more suffocating by the hour. One afternoon, while Anthony was away, she took the chance to explore the locked room. Picking the lock was easier than she expected, and the door creaked open to reveal a dimly lit study filled with documents and photographs. What she found chilled her to the bone. Files detailing Anthony's manipulations of business rivals, records of deceitful partnerships, and even letters from women who had once been in her position, women who had mysteriously disappeared. Looking for something? Anthony's voice startled her, and she turned to find him standing in the doorway, his expression a mix of anger and amusement. I was just, she stammered, her heart racing. You should have stayed out of this, he said coldly, stepping closer. But now that you know, we need to have a serious conversation. Claudia spent the next few days in a haze of fear and determination. She knew she couldn't stay, but leaving Anthony wouldn't be easy. He had connections, power, and a dangerous temper. One night, she confronted him. I can't live like this, Anthony. I deserve more than to be your pawn. Anthony laughed, a cold, humorless sound. You think you can walk away? After everything I've done for you? I'd rather have nothing than live in fear, Claudia said, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. Gathering her courage, she packed a bag and left the mansion under cover of darkness. The road ahead was uncertain, but as she stepped into the night, she felt a spark of hope. For the first time in months, Claudia was free to rebuild her life on her terms, no matter how difficult it might be. This expanded narrative focuses on emotional depth, suspense, and character growth, drawing readers into Claudia's journey of heartbreak, resilience, and self-discovery. Let me know if you'd like further refinements.